Appendix 1. Nanking Massacre by Chiang Kai-shek. The Nanking Massacre event. In order to understand fully how the Nanking Massacre event unfolded, we need to start our story from the Xian Mutiny of 1936. In the morning of December 12, 1936, Chiang Kai-shek was apprehended by the mutiny general's men while hiding behind some boulders. This was the morning of infamy for Chiang, and for our Chiang and his American boss FDR alike. One infamy must be replied by another infamy. So the morning of December 12, 1937 was the specified time. The commanding general Tang of Nanking was ordered by Chiang in his final signed telegraph after two previous attempts by phones to leave Nanking for another morning of infamy to take place. Chiang was not always a stickler about dates. For example, one of the mutiny generals, the one who helped him escape from his capture, Chiang had the guy put on the house arrest longer than anybody cared to remember. But the other one, the more die-hard mutiny general, got the whole family, including one infant, butchered with faces made unrecognizable by acid, only hours before most men got there to rescue them. And the infamy in this case was that the victims all still thought Chiang was their friend. Also, never forget Chiang was a persistent person, and always remember he only becomes more persistent if you try to change him. So the mutiny was a big mistake. Now, instead of just targeting the communists in China, Chiang went after all Chinese. That's maybe why later he sensed a new lease in life in Taiwan, when he had his once elusive enemies now all cornered in one spot, the mainland China. In Xian Mutiny, Chiang was forced under gunpoint to stop killing Chinese and start killing Japanese. Well, that definitely made him want to kill more Chinese and to love Japanese even more. This is the key factor for anyone to understand Nanking Massacre and all the other illogical happenings during Chiang's rule. One American Chinese girl named Iris Chen was a victim of not understanding this factor, but still with open bright eyes wrote a book about Nanking Massacre, the rape of Nanking. And the Japanese right wing is the current ongoing victim. After a thorough research of World War II, they still have no faintest clue as to who had been taking them for a wild ride and making them sound like a self-contradictory laughingstock to the outside world. After China declared war against Japan by the agreement reached in Xian Mutiny, the First Battle of Shanghai was a shocker for Chiang as well as the Japanese. Chiang was hoping the superior Japanese military would teach the overeager Chinese a lesson. But instead, the Japanese suffered such a big loss, the Central Command in Tokyo basically decided to drop the inland expansion plan. That definitely would be a no-no for Chiang. He wanted to give Japan another chance at Nanking, so he must guarantee the invading Japanese generals that the Nanking defense will be completely disabled when Japanese soldiers enter the city. This was why Chiang left no communication equipment with the Nanking troops and no aerial support for the artillerists. In addition, Chiang personally pulled General Tang out of his defense command right when Japan started its assault on Nanking. Today, the Japanese right-wing hardcore still maintain that there was no massacre in Nanking and the whole thing was all a fabrication. But nobody listened to their cry. Why? Why all they really need to do is just show the true military record, how easily they enter the city without any fighting, or rather facing only retreating Chinese soldiers. Then people will automatically suggest of a fabrication on their own. But the Japanese couldn't do that, because the bigger truth here was that Chiang was on their side. Anyway, at the time they need to keep this horror of a bigger truth from Chiang's boss, America. In fact, some Japanese troops were so much co-conspirators of Chiang that they actually did indeed perform some covert contract massacres, like the one at the Fish Thunder camp, that even most of the Japanese army did not know about until some survivors exposed it during the war trial. America naturally was happy with the performance of the die-hard anti-Japanese Chinese troops in the Shanghai battle. So Chiang might as well capitalize on this momentum. He needed continue to show large casualty numbers or simply fabricate some photos that would damage Japan's image to get paid by America. He did both. 3 large sources of casualty, all Chinese this time. 2 came from General Tang's do-or-die commitment at defending Nanking, and another, the secret contract killing by Japanese execution squad as a repayment for Chiang disabling the Nanking defense. To prepare for an all-out fight, Tang first demolished all the vessels for escape to strengthen his troops' determination in defending the city to the last man. Then he positioned 2 machine guns right over the narrow escape route to wipe out any notion of desertion. So Chiang's order to retreat made it the worst day in Tang's life. This poor guy must have wished for a lifetime to gripe about what Chiang made him to do, especially after he warned Chiang that there will be a massacre, even just by his own people, if he retreated. But little did Tang realize that it's all in the Chiang's fabrication plan. If only Chiang could also knock off Tang, nobody will ever be able to find out the truth. Only dumb American generals would judge the genius. Chiang was a military nitwit at pulling the defending command out of his post right before the enemy's assault. Why even Iri Chen, in his book, just honed in on Japanese brutality in massacre the non-hostile Chinese troops. So Chen made sure Tang would not have the chance to grab. He arrested Tang and executed Tang by a firing squad for desertion. But in the footnote of the book Rape of Nanking by Iri Chen, the readers are told that Tang was actually rescued by the communists and lived to a ripe old age to gripe. However, in appeasing the Taiwan government, the wishful Chinese government censored everything except for the little they told Chen that's in her book, just enough to hint that the massacre was a fabrication by Chen. Two heroines of Nanking. A few words are in order to credit the two heroines in the Nanking Massacre event. The first is Iris Chen, the author of Rape of Nanking. For a good analytical reader, Chen's book has already convicted Chen as the fabricator of Nanking Massacre, with the information the Chinese communists revealed to Chen. It's almost a matter of time she herself would have realized, or by some convincing arguments from an analytical reader, the Nanking Massacre was a fabrication, especially in the backdrop of what Chen deemed as the criminal American Bush administration. The problem here is that by then it would be all too late. The upsurge of grassroots momentum of anti-Japanese sentiment, backed by the Chinese Christian converts' fierce anti-Asian stand, West's imperialistic ambition and the untold riches of Sun Chan Trust Fund has already swelled to an uncontrollable level. Iri Chen would not be able to live with the truth, while her fanatic followers were cheering her on for her sincere lies. Guess that's when people commit suicide, and she did. But the cause for her suicide was generally accepted to be mental stress. What horror could cause this kind of life-threatening stress? We can either find it out and put it into history books, or let it repeat itself in real life. In fact, Iri Chen's real-life tragedy itself was a repeat of another heroine from Nanking, Minnie Wangchun. Wangchun was a first-hand witness of Nanking Massacre. Her diaries basically describe the war zone atmosphere of the transition from the Chiang administration to the Wang Jingwei government. Like Iri Chen, she too had a mental breakdown, and she had to go back to America for treatment. She left a diary, but the last few entries have been altered by someone else. Here we may have to borrow the notes left by Chen to hypothesize the motive for the alteration. Also, like Chen, when she got killed and could see everything clearly, she decided not to live with what she was seeing. Wang Chui was a contemporary of Chiang Kai-shek, living amidst the dirtiest of Chiang's trickeries, which were much more sinister than the bone loser Bush will ever come up with. It's hard, therefore, to blame her for not knowing what hit her to make her quietly seal all the windows in her apartment and turned on the gas stove without lighting it. A small clue deserves to be mentioned here. That is, Wang Chui was quoted to have said, "Had I 10 perfect lives, I would give them all to China." Well, someone in China disappointed her deadly, and someone was a fellow Christian. So Iris Chen lived and suffered under Bush Jr. Deeply disappointed and grudgingly, she went out and bought a gun just 2 days after finding out Bush was elected for a second term. And here is what in the note she left behind before she used the gun to end her life. "I can never shake my belief that I was being recruited and later persecuted by forces more powerful than I could have imagined. Whether it was the CIA or some other organization, I will never know. As long as I'm alive, these forces will never stop haunting me. I believe my detention at Northern Hospital was the government's attempt to discredit me. I had considered running away, but I will never be able to escape from myself and my thoughts. I'm doing this because I'm too weak to withstand the years of pain and agony ahead." The existence of the notes was reconfirmed by her dad, but he cautioned us that the U.S. government has told him not to discuss this with other people, as well as to tell others be hush-hush about them. Professor Darrell H. Hamamoto of Department of American Studies, University of California, Davis, still braved some conclusion in line with her notes. Quite possibly, Chen had found during the course of her research and political involvement on behalf of those who experienced profound losses during wartime that her own American government was complicit, if not at the center of the multiple holocausts of the 20th century. Nanking Massacre photo album. Okay, if you wait long enough, truth will surface by itself. This was the case with Chen Xinming regarding his role in the fabrication of the Nanking Massacre. Iris Chen's notes were warned not to be discussed, but the following new revelation on Chen Xinming surfaced in 2009 and disappeared by 2015 in China. It was about the true activities of Chen in producing the Nanking Massacre photo album, with which Chiang Kai-shek and his master spy Dali tried so carefully to dissociate themselves with. It was an it was an article coming out in 2009, right around the time China and Japan decided to jointly research and write what exactly happened in Nanking during the winter of 1937, but it was nowhere to be found by 2005. It might have something to do with Americans' displeasure at Japan's second call for East Asia Community in 2010. America did do something nasty to scare Asians to back off, like the sinking of South Korea warship Cheonan, and even the once in a 1,000-year Japanese earthquake, tsunami, nuclear accident. In the 1980s, the testimonies of the widows of Chen and the Daily spies who participated in the creation of the Nanking Massacre's photo album revealed new data about the circumstances under which the album was produced. According to the old data from Chen and the Dai, Chen Ximing betrayed their trust and defected to the Japanese immediately after the Japanese occupied Nanking. The author of the book, Spy Master Dai Li and the Chinese Secret Service by Frederick Wakeman, had one short paragraph in his book telling the world that Chen basically did nothing for Dai and Chen while in Nanking, based on an announcement by Dai Li to the public that Chen defected. Also in the early 1980s, one high official in Taiwan's intelligence community, in his memoir, also stated that Chen sacrificed his life gallantly in China's resisting Japan war. But the widows of Chen spies who were sold out by Chen to the Japanese military police told a vastly different story. They exposed Chen as the creator of the infamous Nanking Massacre photo album. Chen led a group of spies into the slum of Nanking during the time Nanking fell to the Japanese. Together, they were supposed to photograph the massacre and rapes by the Japanese soldier and send them to their bosses, Chiang Kai-shek and his master spy Dai Li in Hangzhou. 3 years later, on October 9, 1940, Chen Ximing himself surrendered to the Japanese and then sold out his subordinates to the Japanese to have them all executed. But in January 1941, Chen himself was arrested and executed by the Japanese. The reason for their deaths was because they were found to be the authors of the fabricated Nanking Massacre photo album, which more than any other anti-Japanese propaganda material has caused unerasable images of hatred in Chinese minds about Japanese brutality in China. However, to this day, Japanese researchers have refuted the authenticity of this album. None of the photos seem entirely genuine. The results of a thorough analysis of the photos proved that photos were either not taken in the cold winters winter of Nanking, noting the clothes being worn, or they were doctored by somebody. Some photos even have the same faces, shown on either the Japanese soldier or on their Chinese victims. And the most memorable photos are so sexually repugnant that their propaganda value of biblical proportion. The photo album had to be the product of truly sick minds who seem to have self-scripted, self-directed, and self-enacted the photo shoot. Well, Chiang Kai-shek did say he liked to trust Christians, so they might be all used to things that were perverted and filthy. Today, the Nanking Massacre community has become an unshakable cult of lies. While the whole Christian faith does have a strong sexual appeal, unlike the boring, godless Asian philosophies, and the fabrication could really use some sexual sensationalism. The following evidence on Chen and Dai Li's premeditated activities further substantiate the view. Chiang Kai-shek intentionally fabricated the Nanking Massacre. It appeared that after Chen and Dai Li planned out their operation, they needed a story to dissociate themselves from Chen. Here's the story Dai Li used. Dai Li at first told his own boss, Chiang Kai-shek, that Chen was completely reliable and capable of accomplishing the task of doing underground work in the Japanese-occupied Nanking. But the minute Nanking fell, Dai announced to the world that Chen led his spy to defect to the Japanese. Dai specifically admitted that he was blind to the true character of Chen and has deeply lost faith in front of Chiang Kai-shek. But now we know Dai Li and Chiang Kai-shek lied in order to hide something. Since Chen did not defect until 2 years later, according to the recent testimonies of the spies' widows, and during the same time period in which Dai Li wanted the world to believe Chen defected was when the Nanking Massacre photo album was being produced and sent to Dai Li himself in Hangul. Obviously, final destination was America in its preparation for the coming war with Japan. Now we all know that the album production was a planned operation by Chiang Kai-shek and Dai Li. Chen Xinmin was their point man. Chen was ordered to do the photo shoot and send the photos to Dai Li in Hangul. Then Dai Li tried to dissociate Chen and himself from Chen's operation by telling a lie that Chen had defected to the Japanese during the time he was actually executing the operation, so that there was no Nanking Massacre album being fabricated by Chen. At the end, Americans got all the propaganda material to smear Japan to justify a war in Asia. And Chiang Kai-shek had his first revenge for the humiliation he suffered at Xian Mutiny at its first anniversary in the form of 2 self-slaughtering by the retreating Chinese troops and the secret mass slaughter of what left of the 90,000 communist-leaning Chinese troops in contract killing by a Japanese squad. As a bonus, Chiang also arranged for the conversion to Christianity of tens of thousands of Chinese refugees in Nanking that would make up quite a post-war community for substantiating his ingenious Nanking Massacre. In the early 1930s, the forgery Tanaka Memorial was published in Shanghai to poison the blood of Chinese people toward Japan. Now this Nanking Massacre photo album put the nails on the coffin of Sino-Japanese relationship up to this day. Nanking Massacre documentaries. Xian Mutiny and the Nanking Massacre's impact on Asia on YouTube. Several other documentaries have since emerged on Nanking Massacre. Most are just self-patting Christian and West propaganda for Japan bashing with the purpose of dividing and conquering Asia. One of the very first Nanking Massacre video was by a person who loved to show on TV and in his meetings all the offending, obscene photos, which could very well be fabricated by Chen et al. His favorite subject of presentation was comparing the Japanese samurai sword to the male sex organ. The guy wound up suing the Nanking Massacre committee for not sharing the donation they collected. But one film recovered from all the truth-telling, first-hand record-keeping by the Japanese that the West supposedly have managed to destroy was Nanking. As usual, it's mostly poor and futile propaganda attempts by the introvert Japanese. This film, however, does serve as a confirmation of what we have just described. For example, the only clear assault on Nanking was two soldiers used a 15-meter-long ladder to climb up a deserted city wall and raise some Japanese flags. Then on top of this, tall defensive walls. Out of every opening looking down from the exterior wall, there were long ropes braced across the opening for people to let themselves down out of the city. The Japanese soldiers joked about the strange way the Chinese soldiers retreated. They did show some sporadic fighting against invisible enemies at noon on December 12, 1937. This pretty much checked out our own timeline on the dot. Specifically, Nanking Massacre was planned to happen on the first anniversary of the Xian Mutiny. Then on December 15, they had the victory march into the abandoned city. And the film showed a lot of anti-Japanese posters on Nanking streets to refute that. The commentator on the film criticized the Chinese residents' immorality of habitually cut in line in public lineups rather than wait for their turn, starting at the end of the line. Finally, all were forgiven when they replaced the old Chinese posters with new Chinese posters, and everyone got into a festive Timor, with children playing with firecrackers to celebrate the New Year. The concluding general message from the invading Japanese was, in addition, shall we pray till we shout for joy of the peace for Asia and the friendship between Japan and China. Behavior pattern analysis. Now we have described what really happened in Nanking from the events that led to the mayhem caused by Chiang Kai-shek's order to retreat just when Japanese start to assault on the city. Since this was a real life, not a movie, we can actually present some continuity and consistency in the behaviors of the characters involved. Namely, we need to present examples of behavior patterns of the Japanese soldiers and Chiang Kai-shek in other similar settings. Since Japan was singled out for wartime sexual conduct, let's pick an event where a comparative discussion with the other country can be found, and the setting should be also in China. This was the Boxer Rebellion in the early 1900s, and here are the comparison, and this time we also single out the Western Allied soldiers for criticism, as the world did to Japan, both in Nanking and also on comfort women in Korea. While one historical account reported that Japanese troops were astonished by other alliance troops raping civilians, Roger Keyes, who commanded the British destroyer Fame, noted that the Japanese had brought their own regimental wives or prostitutes to the front to keep their soldiers from raping Chinese civilians. Thousands of Chinese women commit suicide. The Daily Telegraph journalist E.J. Dillon stated it was to avoid rape by alliance forces, and witnessed the mutilated corpses of Chinese women who were raped and killed by the alliance troops. The French commander dismissed the rapes, attributing them to gallantry of the French soldier. A foreign journalist, George Lynch, said, "There are things that I must not write, and that may not be printed in England, which would seem to show that this Western civilization of ours is merely a veneer over savagery." Finally, a recent documentary did show that American GIs also enjoy some massive comfort stations in Japan during their stay after Japan surrendered. However, the story back home in America has been a Madame Butterfly romance. Let's also take a 180-degree turn to look at some admirable part of the Japanese military by introducing this Japanese general who was the top commander of Japanese army in China, and the one that Chiang used to use as excuse for causing the Yellow River flood of 1938. After war, Chiang personally also made absolutely sure he was convicted as Class A Japanese war criminal for knowing too much. Ken Dorihara was Japan's China Old Hand. He has read the Chinese classical novels, Three Kingdoms and the Outlaws of the Marsh, therefore was familiar with Chinese national characteristics. Thus, he was a man of integrity and righteousness. Doihara was also known by people as a man of his words and always kept his commitment. Even the famous anti-Japanese Chinese General Ma Zhanshan said that Doihara does not lie. General Song Tse-yuan also commented on Doihara that he said what he meant. General Diwan, even when he's vehemently scolding the Japanese, but when it comes to talking about Doihara, he would change the tune and say, Doihara, he understands, he say what he means. Was General Doihara really a Class A war criminal? The following verdict by Judge Rahabino Paul in the war trial may shed some light. Judge Paul was the only independent judge appointed to the Tokyo trials of Japan war crimes committed during the Second World War. Among all the judges of the tribunal, he was also the only one who submitted a judgment which insists all defendants were not guilty. But the publication of Judge Paul's 1,235 pages dissent was banned from release to the public until recently. He argued that the United States had clearly provoked the war with Japan and expected Japan to react. In 1966, Paul visited Japan and said that he had admired Japan from an early age for being the only Asian nation that stood up against the West. Hopefully, the above presentation will send a message to the journalists and historians to condemn all wars, rather than to whitewash your own wars with sexual sensationalism committed by your enemy's wars. Guess by now you could not wait for finding out the secretive behavior pattern of our own Chiang Kai-shek. There were really too many to mention. Here we will only describe two events. One, the largest act of environmental warfare in history, Yellow River Flood of 1939. An official history of the war put the dead in the flood at 900,000 and the refugees at nearly 10 million. This was right after Chiang caused the flood. But the flood and the famine spread to 3 provinces and last from 1938 to 1945. Now we finally solved the mystery about the 3 R's policy: kill all, burn all, and loot all. They were not done by Japanese, and they missed a fourth all, that is, drowning all by not alerting the downstream residents. Here's another comparison of the relation between Japanese soldiers with the Chinese people and that of Chiang soldier with his own people. However, because there were many Chinese civilians killed during the flood by the Kuomintang, Chiang's party, Most of the civilians residing in the area began to cooperate with the Japanese. Actually, at this stage of Chinese history, the Chinese people disliked the Japanese, hated Chiang, and considered themselves all communists at heart. Yet Chiang has never given up lying to the people, just like in Nanking and here at the Yellow River. The nationalist government, after initially claiming that the breach was caused by Japanese bombing, used the heavy casualty to demonstrate the scale of sacrifice required of the Chinese people. It claimed that 12 million people have been affected by the flood. Here's another lie attempted by Chiang. The Wikipedia on General Tang, Xian Mutiny of Nanking Massacre fame had the following concluding remarks. Despite Chiang's support and protection, Tang was blamed for the failure that resulted in the consequent Nanking Massacre. A nice try to whitewash Chiang Kai-shek. But we expect this kind of shameless attempt from the never giving up Chiang. Now we have ruled out any unusual effort by Japan. This view from Wikipedia requires us to judge which is the real criminal party, Tang or Chiang. This is a question of national image for all Chinese who are interested in Nanking Massacre. But for the rest of the world, their position will accordingly be that 1. If Tang was the cause of Nanking Massacre by obeying Chiang's order to retreat, then the Chinese Communist government should take the responsibility for the atrocity. 2. If Chiang was the cause with his order to retreat, then his remnant government in Taiwan should be responsible. So all Chinese who still observe the Nanking Massacre anniversary should answer this question before doing so next time. Mao was the one who exposed Chiang, not the Japanese, as the creator of Yellow River flood. But how come he did not expose the Japanese or even Chiang or Tang about the Nanking Massacre? This is because there was no massacre, except one that done in utter secrecy. Even though Mao must have a detailed report from General Tang. Now with the Japanese army's image completely smeared by lies of Nanking Massacre and the Yellow River flood, Japan's China liberation effort was turned into a bona fide brutal invasion. Even the tragic value of the flood has been questioned. Japanese troops were out of its range. They took Wuhan in October by attacking from a different direction. After Wuhan fell, 200,000 refugees moved to Changsha and caused the population in Changsha to swell from 300,000 to 500,000. This didn't look good in terms of how Chiang's mind works. So here we go again. Because of lack of confidence in holding the city, Chiang Kai-shek suggests that the city should be burned to the ground, so that Japan would gain nothing even if it chose to forcefully enter it. Here is what happened in Changsha. So the second event that Chiang Kai-shek fabricated. The greatest human-caused citywide fire in Chinese history, the Changsha Fire of 1938. Chiang Kai-shek ordered the city to be set on fire to keep its wealth from the Japanese. Many people were killed when the water in the fire truck was replaced by gasoline. More than 30,000 people lost their lives during the fire. Over 90% or 56,000 of the city's buildings were burned. The result of this fire made Changsha one of the most damaged cities during World War II. Alongside Stalingrad, Hiroshima, and Nagasaki. Could Chiang, Hitler, and Truman be in a three-way killing competition? Lucky for Japan, at the end of the Battle of Changsha, Japanese troops were successfully repelled by the Chinese defenders because Changsha's commanding general was never recalled by Chiang. Otherwise, today we might just see a Nanking Massacre memorial, which would be erected to tell the world that Changsha was the most devastated city, courtesy of the Japanese. The basic difference that made Nanking fail to the Japanese and allowed Changsha to repel the Japanese was that the commanding general Tang of Nanking was someone Chiang had once fought against in battle and later ordered him to be assassinated by Dai Li, even when they were on the same side. But the generals in Changsha were Chiang's future vice presidential hopefuls. Finally, what kind of city is Changsha that made Chiang want to burn it? It's the hometown of Mao Zedong. Well, when we are at it, how about Nanking? It's the headquarters of China's Christian converts. The Taiping Christian rebels once made it the capital of their old Christian regime. If you're still not quite clear about how Chiang's mind worked, here are some more examples that illustrate his true feelings toward China, Japan, and America, and even Russia. After Japan surrendered, Chiang even ordered the Japanese troops in the northeast China to fight the Mao's peasant army for another month. But Japan not only refused, but instead armed 700,000 of Mao's troops with quality weapons that eventually allowed Mao to beat Chiang. When Chiang was preparing for the final battle against Mao in Shanghai, he told his generals that if they could only hold on for 6 months, the United States will use nuclear weapons to defeat Mao. Then back to China's northeast territory, where Russia occupied a lot of land. Chiang asked the Russians to postpone their returning the land to China, giving the Russia a chance to bring home $2 billion worth of heavy industrial equipment. Finally, to be really certain about Chiang's feeling about Japan throughout the world, we shall take a look at a short news item in the Xindao Daily. It was at the time Chiang was just about to leave China and go to Taiwan. His wife asked him to go to the West instead, but Chiang replied, "If I go anywhere other than Taiwan, I will go to Japan. Chiang factor removed. Chiang will be a small figure with huge influence in history. It will be an interesting what-if exercise to remove the Chiang factor in China and see how history would evolve. So what if China was not handicapped by Chiang Kai-shek? China would be able to hold off Japan for at least 6 months at Nanking, according to the Rebel Nanking book by Iris Chen. During that time, reinforcements from Changsha and everywhere else would be able to attack the Japanese assaulting troops from the rear. Eventually, Japan would be forced to sign a conditional surrender peace agreement, and the condition was that Japan join up with China to liberate the whole Asia. This would be possible because although the absent Chiang would be against it, both China and Japan have been doing just that all along and up to now. Thus, China and Japan will form a united front against the Western colonists. That will also have saved America the effort from launching a military operation to, quote, rescue, unquote, Asians from Japan. And the world will turn around from war to peace, starting from Asia. Finally, we owe Japan for presenting their own view by showing the latest documentary they made, The Truth About the Nanking Massacre, a fabricated massacre, Nanking incident.